Hey Tom, how are you doing?
Great, Gabriela. How are you?
Awesome, awesome. I am so pleased to welcome today, welcome you, Tom McKeown. We talked a little bit about making sure I say the name right, so I think I got it. Tom, I am so thankful that you're joining us today. We met recently and had a quick chat about your background, and there were so many things about what you've done and your exits, and I'm like, you have to be on the podcast. So thank you for joining.
My pleasure.
Awesome. So, Tom, you're based here in the Dallas area.
Correct. Plano, just a little north of Dallas. So I've been here over 30 years.
Awesome, awesome. And so, Tom, let's start like learning a little bit about the company that you exited. And I want everybody just to hear a little bit about what industry. And then I know you have a very, very rich background in corporate, so I want to make sure everybody can hear and understand that amazing story of transitioning from the corporate world to an exit. And then I know you've had some amazing partners along the way. So what company did you sell?
So my company was Trend Data. We were in the human resource space. We sold people analytics. So basically, we used historical data to trend things like turnover, recruiting success, performance success, where we could give companies not only ability to see how things were trending in the past, but using AI technology and everything to forecast into the future. Your high performer turnover is going up. What's the reason for it? Should you pay people more? Should you give them more career development? Should you let them work from home, and what things would actually tilt the trajectory in the right direction?
Awesome. And so analytics, and what year was that?
So that was we founded the company in 2017. It actually goes back a little further than that. I was with a talent management company here based in Richardson, HR Smart, and I came along the last 3 years before that company before it exited, and we'd started building an analytics product there, and I had this vision of what I wanted to build. We actually sold the company before we could really get too deep into it. And after we sold the company, I spoke with the founder of that company, and he wanted to do another company. And I said, well, that analytics initiative, we were going to write it just for our software. And I said, but I think we could build this. We could bring in, unlimited sources of data, regardless of, vendor or location and stuff like that. So he and I co-founded this company called Trend Data. We went through a bunch of names, so we found one that wasn't taken. So the idea behind it is, of course, trending data. So you
Right.
can see what direction's going into it. We launched the company in 2017 with me as CEO and co-founder. We ran the company with great growth for probably about 3.5 years before we hit COVID, and then we kind of flattened out a little bit, but we regained our footing. And actually, while looking for a partner to handle we basically had the business. We were all the large companies we were taking direct, and kind of the mid-market companies, which it was a very good fit for because it was very much an out of the box solution. You didn't have to have spend tens of $1,000s on professional services. So we needed a low end partner to be able to sell that part of the business in mass. So while I was looking for another partner in 2021, as we were coming out of COVID, kind of looking to go into the next stage of growth, I ran across this company, iSolved, who was looking for an analytics solution. And we kind of first talked partnership, but eventually they decided they wanted that product as part of their suite. So after four tumultuous months
Yeah.
negotiating the deal, we signed on the line in June of 2021, and then I went to work for iSolve for a couple of years to make sure the product successfully integrated into their offering, and then help craft the messaging and stuff like that. Yeah.
Amazing. You're making it sound too easy though, because no company that is built is ever so
Ah,
simple. So let me just take a step back. So you guys sold, you were working with, I think, HR Smart.
mhm.
You guys sold out, and then you and the founder of that company, like, let's get a new one.
Mhm.
How do you like go to your first customer? Like, I'm sure you had to build this software from scratch, obviously, with
Correct.
algorithms and analytics. Because I guess one question is how did you like how does one start literally those first relationships? Like, How do you do that? And the also was analytics newer? I mean, because we're still talking about analytics. This is 2025 and everything is about analytics.
Mhm.
And it seems to be some, was that a newer thing in 2017? Was that a growing thing? Were you guys disruptors in analytics or were just kind of riding the wave of analytics that already had started?
Well, we weren't the first in. I kind of joked when we were getting into the market, there was one big company, bigger than all the others, and they still are, of the independents called Visier.
Hmm.
And then there were about seven companies that were under 5 million in revenues. So I would jokingly, when I was raising money, go around to the founders and they'd say, "Who is this competition?" And I would say, "Well, it's Visier and the Seven Dwarfs, you know."
Okay. That's funny.
Yeah, and what was unaddressed in that market was the mid market. Most of the companies that were investing in analytics, and I think it's still pretty much true today, were the larger companies because they were not only buying software, they were throwing resources at it. And what we wanted to do was come up with a solution for a small company, be able to put it in, get the data served up to them, and make it as easy as possible for them to click a few keystrokes and get the information they need. We also added a bot capability that could actually tell them
Well,
what the right moves were.
yeah.
Uh, but the thing about the HR market where we were selling into, number one, it's a wild, wild west market. It's like startups coming up all the time,
Yeah.
consolidation coming all the time. But they tend in a lot of senses to be the last of the technology dance.
Hmm.
So analytics had made its way into, sales analytics, stock analytics, healthcare analytics and stuff. And HR was still lagging. So we kind of, wildcatted a little and went to the area. Fortunately, I'd been in HR software for the past 15, 20 years at that point. So we knew where this weakness was. And it also helped that, being in that space, myself and my co-founder, that we did have a fair enough amount of contacts. So what we did when we started the
Okay.
company, we went out to get like 10 or 15 beta clients. And so, we made sure to do a lot of testing, putting it in front of them, and make sure it was something not that they thought was just nice, but something that they would buy and use within their organization. And we pretty much targeted the mid market. We knew it was a successful offering to the large end market, but we weren't going to go in and just be the ninth player in that market. We wanted to hit at least with part of the offering some area that was at least somewhat untapped at that point.
Amazing, amazing. It's always intriguing, right? Especially for, a lot of our listeners are people that are building a business or having an idea for a
Yeah,
business and entering where there's already some competition, some players, but when you can, the
yeah,
hunger in the market is still there, market underserved. So
right.
leveraging contacts that you already have, obviously an expertise that you had, right? Coming from the having that rich background. So tell us more about that rich background because when you and I met the other day, you were mentioning, and I think you said something like, it's just never too late. And that was honestly, it's so encouraging. So many
Yeah.
people, because some people are like, oh, I'm at this stage in life, there's no way I'm building another business or going back. But I think you did that. So tell us about that transition from the corporate to basically becoming an entrepreneur and solving a problem and then selling a company that solved the problem.
Well, to date myself, I was actually 56 when I started the company. So, no spring chicken. And I kind of had always known that I wanted to start my own company, but it took a long time to get there. I I got out of college in the mid 80s, went to work for a couple of very large companies. And the first entrepreneur I remember listening to was Ross Perot,
Okay.
started EDS here in Dallas. I went to a lunch that he was speaking at. I think I got a ticket from someone who wasn't going. I couldn't have afforded it on my. But he was a very charismatic individual, and someone asked the question that I wanted to ask, which was essentially, what would your advice be to someone starting a company? And it was very straight, obvious in a lot of sense, but he said, what you need to do is get into a business and learn it cold. I mean, know everything about that business. And then you'll find that there are unmet needs in that business. And then you look at building your offering to hit those unmet needs. So that's why I kind of went the road of staying in business. I stayed in technology and software, but that's many businesses rolled up into one. So I would,
Right.
during my first 30, 25 years or so in tech, I'd worked for Adobe, Citrix, WebEx, a lot of great technologies, but not one real defined area. Until in 2005, I went to work for my first HR software company. And I started with that one. We sold that company. I was the COO. I went to HR Smart with Mon, and we sold that company. I was general manager. So I'd gotten to know the HR space, and really, I got to know it well enough to know that there's an area that's missing here. And it's
Yeah.
not an area where I would have to totally invent it. It was one where if I could make it a little bit easier for this segment of the market, I could move it forward. So we started the company in 2017, and yeah, it wasn't we didn't rock it out of the gates.
Right. Okay, so tell me more about that, because one of the issues like with the startup world or the new company world is you go in with all the motivation and all the incentives, and then it's just flatlining for some time, or maybe not. How what tell me more about the process. I know you said you had some contacts, so at least some leads to begin with.
Yeah, so we got a few mid-sized customers right out of the gates. People I know, but I think we had about four or five. Um, but when we went out to like our mass marketing, we figured, these people loved it. We offered a free trial. We figured that would bring in leads by the boatload, but it didn't.
Okay.
Basically, people value what they pay for, and when we offered it as just an initial free trial,
Hmm.
nobody bid on it. We still continue to offer the free trial when we're in the process. So basically, if we got a prospect in line, they really liked it, but they still weren't sure, we'd say, we'll give it to you for a week for free. And when they were down the road like that, it was and particularly not giving them like a month. You give them a short period of time where they have to go in and use it. And that was an effective tool, not for initial marketing, but for moving people from interested to sale. And the success was exponential. It's like, 1 + 1 = 2, 2 + 2 = 8, and then once you
Amazing.
start getting, yeah. But we had a few bumps along the way. I did have to suffer some turnover because we still hadn't gotten to the point where we could offer health care to people.
Okay.
That's a
Right.
big, so I lost a great VP of sales. I
Wow.
lost a couple of marketing people, but we kept growing the business. But you sweated every, I say it was
Yeah.
a bucket of blood for everyone that we got.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but we had mounted some pretty good revenue, and then we had hit late 2019, and two things happened that flatlined us a little bit. So we number one was the partner we had on the low end, who was selling a lot of our low end business, was ADP. We were in their marketplace, and just being in there, I think we were the first analytics company in there, and we
Wow.
we sold a fair amount in there. But then, among other things, they opened it up to other analytics, but then they came out with their own analytics
Yeah.
product. So
Wow. I can imagine that would upset a fair number of people. I
yeah.
mean, how upsetting is that?
Well, it's the people we had were pretty. They
Yeah.
liked the product. They were using it. The integration inside the ADP marketplace was great. I mean, once we got in there, we did the integration, and people who bought ADP would they just push one button, and and then the data would flow through. So it was a great technology, and it was a great boost for our company. Then when they moved, we didn't lose a lot of clients, but we didn't gain any more through ADP. It was pretty much, they started buying the ADP analytics product, and then late 2019 into 2020, we had COVID.
Yeah. How
Oh,
was that? So, wow, that's almost like a one downer after the other.
yeah, yeah.
How did you survive that?
My stomach was still hurting, and then I got hit in the face. Yeah,
Yeah. Right? So
yeah.
what was COVID like for you guys? I mean, people were working from home, people weren't working, everything stopped. I remember those 3 weeks in 2020, I think in
Yeah,
March,
yeah.
where literally everybody stay in place, don't leave your house. I don't know.
Yep.
Remember that? Even here in
Oh,
Texas, where we actually
yeah.
had it pretty good compared to so many other places,
Yeah.
but still we had those 3 weeks of like, don't move. Yeah.
Yeah. And even at that point, you've got employees who, you can't tell them to go into the office or thing. And
Yeah.
and the thing about COVID, we know a lot now that we didn't know then. So,
Yeah.
you had to err on the side of cautiousness. But all corporate budget just froze. Nobody knew what the
Right.
future was. So it was tough for all companies, but particularly smaller companies. Fortunately, we had a recurring revenue model, so we had revenue coming in. We just didn't grow it, and we were just going out for a seed funding round. We had an angel funding round which started us, and we were going out for a seed round, and we had some pretty good success, and then.
Yeah.
It was like, oh no, and then even a couple of commitments we had pulled back afterwards. So I had to let go of some people, and we pretty much bare boned it almost down to just technology, developers, part-time marketing, and a couple of part-time salespeople.
Wow.
And it was, and then also we didn't have anyone selling to that low end part of the business, which was, about half and half. We had 50-50. We'd have like, 10, 15 companies on the high end and about, 100 on the low end. And they did
Wow.
about, the same, but we lost that whole low end prospecting.
Wow.
Um,
Was
yeah.
that because they stopped like it was a budget issue or was
No,
it?
well, basically the low end business went away because ADP went away. That
Okay. Okay. Okay.
yeah.
Got it.
But I think even they and a lot of others just weren't selling anything during that time period. And most of our larger clients, they stayed with us, but any ones that were in the pipeline were like, hold on, we don't know what this is going to come to. And that lasted a good 9 months, I'd say. I
Yeah.
mean, probably from December of 2019 through almost fall of the next year. And then I think people started sneaking back out of their houses, finding they weren't
Yeah.
dying. Um, and we started to get our larger deals. So we got a few larger deals towards the end of 2020, which kind of helped the numbers. We probably lost more clients than we gained, but the ones we lost were smaller ones. And
Right.
so our revenue went up, but our number of clients went down a little. But then we went into 2021 on a pretty good upswing, but we had burned through a lot of money in 2020. So we were definitely looking out to raise money. And we were wooing back in some of our angel investors and a few others. And then I came across a partner which didn't necessarily look like as good a partner as they turned out to be. So iSolved actually reached out to me and was interested. And they used the word partnership. And I barely heard of them because they're on a low end of the marketplace. They're a payroll company in HR, great in their space, but they were average customer size I think was below 100.
Okay.
They have so many customers. But what they were saying is they were building up a high end business to go after, to be out there with UKG and Workday and all those. And yeah, I was on board. There was great chemistry between their people and our people, but it's like we went
Yeah.
through the financial due diligence in a week, the technical due diligence in a week, and then the legal took them 3.5 months. It was just
And that's for the exit, right? Like
correct. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
well
sorry.
legal. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, no, yeah.
I skipped over the part that eventually they wanted to buy us rather than become a partner.
Okay. Interesting. So yeah, I mean that's something again, with legal due diligence, most people don't know what they don't know. But the truth, we always tell the people that we work with is, there's going to be an army. Once your exit is of a sufficient size,
Hmm.
that your buyer will hire a law firm to handle it, then the process is honestly, it can very easily, it's out of your hands and in literally
Yeah.
the buyer's lawyer's hands. And what we are always trying to teach is you got to be ready for those strangers. We call them the strangers that you don't even know. They are going to tell you what your company's worth. And because your valuation can be beautiful, you can have the best customers. But if you don't pass legal due diligence, you're dead in the water. And that could mean your deal's not going to happen, or you're selling for a discount, big discount that, it can get really nasty. So yeah, I always chuckle a little bit when people are like, yeah, it was all good until the lawyers got involved. And for me, there are so many ways to remediate that. But that's not a podcast about that. It's all about your exits. So that's amazing. So I do want to go back due to COVID. What year did you guys sell?
We
2020.
sold in June of 2021.
So that's right after COVID. So I
Yeah.
feel like, why did you sell? Where you guys were like, oh, we got to what the valuation we wanted, or was it an opportunity? Were you guys looking to sell, or did it come
Uh,
to you?
they came to us. I'd say we weren't looking not to sell. It
Yeah.
was always like, you're always for sale until
Yeah.
if the offer comes along. But I'd probably say a little of it was a little exhaustion from COVID and all
Yeah.
that. And when they came up with this good offer, I had been running through all that, and I was looking at again, I was going to have to raise money to go further. I was going to have to rehire, again, people that I let go, and then the thought of doing this and possibly taking the money and doing something else, but they wanted me to go work for them for a couple of years. I think part of it was that, and part of it. The product, the richness of the technology of the product, I felt like we were not giving it all its best because we didn't have the resources.
Right.
And the idea of getting, a resource, a development budget of a couple of $1 million behind me and really being able to take the product where I really wanted to take it, that was appealing as well. All those factors combined together, and like I said, there was a good chemistry between us and the company that acquired us, and they really wanted to highlight this product to get them to that next phase where they wanted to go further upstream. So it was a good exit. We were happy
Good.
with it. Yeah.
Yeah. So going back to that conversation, that chat with the presentation with Ross Perot, where he's like, did your mind ever go back to that moment where you thought, well, maybe I can be an entrepreneur? And then here you are. Because, with the exits, we always see that moment when the wires hit. And
Mhm.
it's like this big parting moment. Sometimes we're on the call when we do it with our clients and we have a little wine or whatever. Did you have that moment of like, oh my gosh, it was so good and worth it? I'm sure you did. I want to put the
Oh
words.
yeah, it was definitely worth it at the end. I'd say it was more like a giant exhale.
Yeah,
It's the first off during that whole diligence, I was
it's
uh
nasty. Let's just say it.
it
It's
was
very
nasty, and I
nasty.
was and I was taken away from the business a lot.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the idea of like, taking that much time away and then having it fall through and then going back and running the business, and then I guess it was official to me. I always learned very early on that a deal is done when money changes hands. And
That's when the deal is done. The deal is not done until the moment of anything can
right.
happen.
So as
Anything can happen.
so as soon as the money started coming through, then I was like,
Good.
all
Okay.
right.
It's
Uh,
actually happening. Did you have that moment like, oh, this is real? Because so many of the people we work with are like, this isn't, they don't think it's real. It's like, pinch me, because there's no way this is happening.
yeah. I had been through a couple others, but I wasn't like the number one guy. I was, like I said, the CEO and the general manager at a couple. So it was as traumatizing, but really the one thing is, when you have shareholders, you're happy that, you got something for them, and that, just that you're going to continue to play. And the fact that I think that iSolve is going to go on for a long time, and that our product is wedged in there, that
Yeah,
there's a little bit of immortality in there, just
I
knowing
love
that,
it.
yeah, that your product's going to be there beyond you, and that's really what you want as an entrepreneur, is not to you be the critical thing to the product, that it can run and
Right.
go.
That's so true. I guess I can say, you're extremely experienced in the sale process because you've gone through three, right?
Yeah.
Three. So if you had some advice for founders on how to get ready, what would your advice be?
First of all, have all your documentation in a row. There's a list of things that everybody who goes through an acquisition knows that they're going to have. So have that pristine, have it all in one place where you can get to it. Two, make sure everybody who has a voice in the deal is on board.
Right.
We had a little spout between shareholders and owners and stuff, and it was all stuff that we could iron out, but it was like a family squabble until we were all
Yeah.
marching. Yeah,
Yeah.
so you want to make sure that you've got that all going. Look for carve outs because that's
Mhm.
one thing. They give you a letter of intent which has a number on it that's nice, and then when you finally get the deal, it's like, okay, well, we want an earn out of 70%. We're going to keep this aside till we make sure that you guys own
Right.
the technology, and then you're down. Well, you got to be no, we own it. We'll sign it. It'll do what it says, but they'll try and give you a lot of earnouts and carve
Right.
out. They'll take away from the deal. So you got to be willing and ready to push back against
Yeah.
that.
Learn
Um,
to say no.
yeah, and do be willing to walk away if that's the case. Also, often there's a lot of things around indemnification and stuff like that. That anytime if you think that you're afraid of something's going to come back and bite you with punitive after the deal and everything.
Right.
It really does. It hasn't in any of the deals but
Yeah.
there's always some kind of insurance out there.
Yeah. Hey guys, I want to take a minute here and talk to you about for a second about the company X-ray. Bottom line, if you want to sell your business in the next few years, there are two things that you're going to need to know. You're going to need to know the financials, and you're also going to need to know the legal side. Why? When you go to sell a company, there will be a lawyer on the other side, and there will be financial people on the other side. And usually, once you're on the table, the financial stuff has been figured out. They give you a purchase price. They just need to verify. But the lawyers for the buyers are going to scrutinize your company in a process called due diligence. And we've seen so many people not be ready for the due diligence and turn these M&A situations into horrible stress and emotional roller coaster stories. And for that, we have created a solution, which is called the Company X-Ray. Check it out at thecompanyxray.com. We basically do a legal audit. It's just one click for us. That's all it takes. You give us your data, we analyze it, and then we give you a report and we tell you how exit ready your company is from a legal perspective. Because if you're not, not only is your M&A going to turn into a roller coaster, but your purchase price might be cut and your purchase sale agreement might look really, really, really against you because the buyer found things and liabilities they don't like. So be ahead of the game. Check out thecompanyxray.com and reach out. We'll be happy to help you. Yeah, I think, yeah, I mean, you hit them all. And that's the thing. It kind of comes down to a document that's called the
Yeah.
sale agreement, the purchase agreement, and that document. I mean, it's just how it is.
Mhm.
Is a buyer's lawyer thing, and it turns into a game of these and tug of war, these for that and that for that. And I think, in my view, like kind of like you said, the cleaner you come in, the cleaner your deal will be. And so that's so important.
And another thing is if you're going to go with the company that buys you, you have to go into it with the mindset that they are buying you. I
Yeah.
think a lot of founders go into it, and then they're 6 months to a year with the new company, and they're telling them, "Hey, you can't do this thing with my product." And I say, "No, no,
Right.
it's not your
It's
product
not your
anymore."
product anymore. It's ours. Yeah,
Yeah,
those transitions are important. People don't think
yeah,
about the integration of the business, the transition plans, and like
yeah,
consider you're going to be working for your buyer. I would say in most cases you are, because you need to transition what the operation is into what it will become in somebody else's hands. So it's shocking. Most people, and you know, obviously you came with some experience. Most founders, I would say, don't. They've never sold a company. They know how to build a company. They know their customer. They know their product.
yeah,
They know their numbers. But to me, the M&A process is a life-changing event, and it's a full-time job. It is a full-time job almost for the main people involved in it. And so you need to be able to have the
yeah,
mental endurance. It's, like you said, I think you put it traumatized. It's a
yeah,
traumatizing event. And it should have, I don't think it has to be, but I
yeah.
think, oftentimes it will be. But yeah, it's intense, very
And,
intense for
and
all of
all
us involved.
and all the three of the ones that I was involved with, including my own at the end, broke down at some point,
Yeah.
and it always seemed to have broken down over a point that this could happen afterwards.
Right.
It's
All
like,
over fear.
yeah, fear of, this is going to happen and then they're going to not pay, or this is going to happen and they're going to sue, and it never does.
It
Yeah,
doesn't. It really, sometimes it's unfounded fear. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's just do the deal.
yeah, and I was, in the middle on a couple of mine. I'm like, I can't believe we're spending so much time on this. I know this is not going to happen.
It's almost like, yeah, anyway, it's like, let's use our imagination and think how many things could happen, but really what are the chances? Especially for a product like a software product. I mean, if your product is safe, if it's not going to leak information, if it's not going to violate probably like consumers' rights or privacy rights, I mean, what could go wrong with an analytics?
Yeah,
And HR is like one of the most benign industries that I know, right?
right.
It's
Because
just
even the information we put in there is not PII. We're not putting social security.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thinking through those details can give you
Mhm.
that peace of mind. The other side will always come up with, nuclear scenarios, and you're like, the reality is we're just giving analytics. What could
Mhm.
go wrong? The algorithm goes off and gives the wrong analytics. I mean, how nobody's gonna die.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna lose, millions over, I don't know. That's so interesting. So amazing how you've gone through the corporate world and then these sales and then this last sale where you were intimately involved basically as an equity owner. And now what have you been doing between June of 21, I think you said, and the present? We're in September of 25 as of today.
So I left iSolved in the spring of 2024. I had a couple of things I wanted to do. I wanted to stay involved in the industry a little bit, but I did after the two, and then particularly after mine, I wasn't of a mind that I wanted to start up another company. Uh, but
One is enough and three exits are enough.
yeah, exactly. Um, but so what I've been doing is I've been advising. I think about three or four companies I'm advising right now on startup stuff. So, and I think two of them are in HR, and one is not. But so I work on advisory boards. I do that. I have a couple of things I'm working on non-technology. I think I told you I published a book last year.
Yes, let's
Yeah,
talk about the book. I have actually the book right here.
yeah,
You were gracious in to, give me the book, and it's a beautiful dedication. Thank you so much. I haven't obviously read it yet because we just met a couple days ago, but so tell about the book.
yeah. So I do want to disappoint you. It's not a book about business or anything. It's a passion project I've had for half a century. So in mid 1970s, I grew up in a small town, Babylon, Long Island, and I played basketball in junior high school and high school. Was not a standout star or anything, but I was I played and I played varsity. But when I was at my junior high in eighth grade, they never had a open state championship in New York. But for the first time, there were two counties on Long Island, and they were going to play each other for the Long Island championship. And my high school had a very good team that year, a really visionary coach. But we were one of the bottom 20% as far as size, and we'd never gone past the first round in the playoffs because it was an open tournament. It wasn't divided up by size. So, we'd play a school like five times as large as us in the first rounds. But this year we felt we had a pretty good team. And I was on the junior high team, but it was a small school, so the junior high was in the same building as the senior high. So I got to see all the guys. They were the guys that we looked up to and everything. And kind of what I detail in the book is similar to like Hoosiers and Friday Night Lights, as how the team kept winning, overcame a bunch of obstacles, but then got into the point where the momentum really started rolling as they started beating bigger and tougher schools that were supposed to finish ahead of us. And in between the basketball games, I talk a lot about what it was like for me growing up on Long Island. I came from I'd say a mid-sized Irish Catholic family of four kids, dog. We lived in the village. Both my parents were teachers. Um, I ran around with a bunch of good kids who were my age, and the town was very small. It was probably 4 miles, catty corner, one end to
Wow.
other. But it was, it was all about basketball in the winter. And so I talk about, and going to school and everything. And one thing, my coaches were very surprised to find out that there was a lot of partying going on in the city.
That's
So
amazing.
everybody had a party every weekend, and kind of the downside, I talk about being, in a seventh and eighth grade, and you're in the same school as seniors and juniors in high school. You find out about a lot of parties that you shouldn't be going to, where there's beer drinking, marijuana smoking, and stuff.
Okay.
Thank God there was no phone tracking back then. Our parents didn't know where we were. We just
Right.
out, and we'll be home at 10 o'clock or whatever.
Yeah, different world, right? Like with no
Yeah,
tracking,
absolutely. Yeah,
no phones. I mean, that's so
yeah.
different.
No computers even. I
No
mean,
computers.
three
So
computers, three TV stations: CBS, ABC, and NBC.
different world. Yeah, I think we could have somebody should make a podcast about what was the world like before the internet and the iPhone. I
Yeah,
mean, it's almost it seems so ancient. I mean, I was born in 81 and we still all that stuff was still not there. So I'm that transition
yeah,
generation that we were born, in an analog world, I guess. I don't know if that's the proper word, but like not necessarily with screens everywhere. And then I remember my brother playing Atari, that stuff. And then fast forward to these insane computers that we carry
yeah.
in our hands. And anyway, I'm sidetracking. I want to go back to the title of your book is This is Panther Country, a memoir of youth, underdog spirit, and basketball glory. I'm all about the underdog
Yeah.
because I've always considered myself, an underdog as an immigrant that came here at age 19 and just like from, having an accent to all these other things. I've always been the underdog, kind of like looking for air and a breather, getting from underwater and, swimming my way, finding the boats and then the ships to ride on. And, to put it in that context, what is the underdog spirit that you discuss here? Because I would love to learn more about that. And of course, I'm going to read it,
Yeah,
but I'm
sure,
very
sure.
curious just by the title.
Well, specifically from the standpoint that on Long Island there were about 130 schools, so it was pretty packed, and it was an open tournament. And like I said, we were a graduating class at Babylon was about 125 people, and in the same county we had schools that had 1,000, 1,500 people. So we had to
Right.
play those schools, and generally there were 8 leagues in Suffolk County, probably a similar in Nassau County, and they were broken up somewhat by size. So you could win your league if you were in the 5, 6, or 7, but as soon as you got into the playoffs, you'd play a big team and get
Mm.
it kicked out of you. But there are a lot of things different about basketball back then. First of all, there was no shot clock, so there were you could hold the ball forever if you
Mm.
wanted to.
Okay.
There was no 3-point line,
Wow.
so yeah. So I always joke,
Rules have changed.
yeah,
The rules of the game have
yeah.
changed. Okay.
And the coach developed a really innovative offense back then, and he was able to neutralize bigger, faster teams moving through it. And we also had a couple of we had a once in a generation player, this guy Glenn Vickers that I talk about in the book. He played Division I basketball at Iona for Jim Valvano. A guy like that comes along once in a while, and combined with the fact that he probably had the best supporting cast that someone has ever had. So we had the right team, the right coach at the right time. But back in 1975, there was 2 professional basketball teams in New York. We had the New York Knicks, who played in Madison Square Garden, and then we had the New York Nets, who played out on Long Island in the Nassau Coliseum, which was only 2 years open at that time. And up until that point, the county championships were maybe played at a junior college auditorium or something. But that year, it was going to be played at the Nassau Coliseum. The Nassau County and the Suffolk County championships played Friday night, and then Sunday night there was a championship game. So it was a little bit more of a Hollywood glitz than
Wow.
that particular tournament had that time. And both games, our county championship and the Long Island championship, were doubleheader games with the Nets, who had Dr. J, Julius Erving
Wow.
at the time. So, and so we all got free tickets to those, or at least very inexpensive tickets. So it was like, the idea these guys were going to be playing on the same court, was a
That's
big thing.
amazing.
And nobody thought that the Suffolk County teams could beat the Nassau County teams because Nassau was almost part of New York City. They had like, really, and
Right.
they thought everybody on Suffolk County was a bunch of farmers, because it was actually pretty rural back then, more so than you would think. The Hamptons
Wow.
was not the Hamptons you think about today with all the glitz and everything. It
Yeah.
was it was farms out there. They had nice seashore, but it
Right.
wasn't, Billy Joel and everybody living out there. So the fact that the small school Babylon was able to compete for the county championship and then the Long Island championship was very distinct, and it kind of embodied the whole community. I talk about how the families. I had a very close family, and all my friends had close families, and every time you're over somebody else's house, their mother was like your mother. It was like
Right.
it was a really great.
Other times.
Yeah, and it was a interracial team, which 75
Right.
was what 10 years after the civil rights
Yeah.
passed. So,
Wow.
but we kind of had it right in Babylon, in that everybody kind of hung out with each other, but kind of you still had zoning things back then. As for
Wow.
on our eastern border of Babylon Village was a high school, West Islip. They were all white. And then on one
Mm.
of our other borders, we had Wyandanch, which was all black. So it was, and Babylon was like, 80% white, maybe 15 to 20% black and Hispanic. So but we all hung out together, and it didn't
Yeah.
um, seem to
Yeah.
matter.
I mean, that's because we're all human. I mean,
Exactly. Yeah.
and then you have these constructed societal constructs that, deviate from that true humanity, that we're just all brothers and sisters. We
Yep.
all trace back somewhere, in my belief, and I think yours is the same, is creation, belief that some, God created, and it wasn't necessarily Big Bang. Oh, suddenly, you know. So yeah, no, that's so beautiful. That's such a rich story. I can't wait to read the book. I was saying country, but I read the book because I have I think I shared my personal connection with basketball. I have a couple of cousins
Yeah, you did.
who,
Yeah.
so
Basketball.
yeah, so they played for, I think I'm pretty sure the national team of Bolivia. I have a part side of my family traces back to that. And so very proud that they actually, and my grandfather was a pro as well in Bolivia. So, and these would have been probably in the 40s at this
Yeah.
point. So that it's a sport that is just close to us.
Yeah.
And of course, I mentioned I'm from Argentina, so we do have a big tradition in our soccer. Yeah, but we have lots of basketball. We have a few famous ones, so I can relate. I played it a little bit in high school, but it wasn't our sport. I'm more of a tennis player. That's amazing. I really love your story. So, so rich. And I wanted to talk a little bit about, sports and business.
Hmm.
Is there, in my case, I think there is. I remember when I was interviewing for my first law firm jobs, the big law firm, kind of like a Wall Street feel. And I remember, what do you think prepared you for this job or for this career? And I'm like, playing tennis. Like
Yeah.
immediately, that's singularity of saying, I've been in matches when I was
Yeah.
whatever years old, 10, 12. I would go in and play these matches and, tackle difficult situations and play the point and do this and do that. Because I used to compete when I was very
Yeah.
young. And so, do you ever relate your rich background in basketball with like entrepreneurship or growing a business or a team player? I mean, there's so much, in my view, that you can learn from in playing the sport.
Well, first of all, I don't think a lot of people experience momentary pressure like athletes do. I
Mm.
mean, the idea of like, tennis, serving when you're down a point at match point, or basketball, you're on the foul line with two shots and you're losing by one with 3 seconds left in the game. Or even, I just talk about things, you're in a fast break and you're up and you're all by yourself in a packed gym. You don't want to miss that layup.
Right.
And little things like that you experience pressure that I think prepares you for things in life. For example, that you have an important job interview or an important sales call. You don't blow it off in your mind and say, "Well, there'll be another one that's happening." It's like, no,
Right.
no. 5 important minutes. I need to make sure I'm on my game and I'm doing this right. And that's one that really, really comes out. The other one is, the idea of like, just putting all in at the right time. It's like this is the time to full court press. This is the time to make sure your guy doesn't get the ball. And the value of teammates, just being able to socially interact and depend on one guy to watch out for you and to watch out for him are all just important things that you bring forward into life and into business, which helps out a lot.
Yeah. I mean, because in business, you're in competition,
Hmm.
yeah, competition with somebody at some
Yeah.
point. And in sports, it's constantly competing, even in competing against yourself. Even in a training session, you're like
Yeah.
playing to see if you can play better or do that shot better than you did last week, or perfect a piece of your technique that
Yeah.
is not quite there. I've always felt like my tennis experience has definitely influenced. Probably that is the pressure. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Super. Well, so before we close, I wanted to go back a little bit to the technical side in the algorithms and the analytics, because obviously the big elephant in the room, right? When you're talking about analytics, it's now AI. It's like
Hmm.
in their different technology languages, how AI analyzes or how an algorithm would analyze back before AI was a thing, which
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out how AI just showed up one day. But
Yeah.
obviously it was being built. It was when ChatGPT came out, he's like, oh, now we have AI. I still try to figure out how many years that took. And then one day AI was here. I still want to know how that happened. But
Well, it seems it happens a lot with technology because a lot of it is developed in research labs and universities that don't make it commercially out for a long time. Like think of the internet. What did they develop
yeah,
that? 1969. I forget when it was.
yeah,
All of a sudden, I remember in even in just in the early 90s,
yeah,
the realization that I could send an email to someone outside my company.
that's crazy.
Yeah. Before that, email was around, but it was within your own walls.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
had this thought yesterday. It's like I need to take a day off from AI. Like I
Yeah.
use it so much that I'm like, when is the last day when I didn't use it? Even in a Sunday or Saturday, even if I'm asking what, we have some bugs in our plants right now. I'm like, what is this bug? What, or just thinking ideas and bouncing ideas. There's not a single day probably for last year that I haven't used it. It's kind of sad, but I'm trying to take a sabbatical from AI
Yep.
soon. But my question is, so what's the future? I mean, as somebody who has seen the evolution of software, who's been building companies, exited companies, and again, the great last one was the one that you built with your own sweat, tear, and blood, and then you did your exit, and it's software. What is going to happen with AI? And these are very broad, open-ended.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know. What the hell is going on?
Well, I think the mistake would be to say it's going to be this, like this one area. It's permeated so many different parts of your life, and generating, just think of, it was only about 10 years ago where Yahoo used to just be like a newspaper. They'd print out stories and everybody got the same stories. Now you're getting stories filtered on your own needs or your own searches and everything. So you don't even know that that's kind of taking place until you suddenly realize, you're a Democrat. I'm only reading Democratic stuff, or
Right.
I'm only reading Republican stuff like that. And then in things like in healthcare, which I still contend and I agree with. I forget who said it that we probably still only know about 15% of what makes a human body tick.
Oof,
Yeah.
that's
Um,
crazy.
yeah, yeah, and a lot of it's in our own immunities. The fact that AI might be able to unleash a lot of that stuff. But then there's the flip side of that. We're gonna have people living longer, more people, and so then we're gonna have to figure a way to feed them. And it's like,
That's crazy. That's
yeah,
crazy. And then the other trigger word is the quantum computer, which I only know how to say that word. I really know very little about it, but I'm extremely curious about that AI and quantum. I've read, and I'm dangerous enough to be very dangerous. Maybe I'll mess up something, but I listen to some of the mainstream podcasts. Some of the guys out there interviewing really high profile people, and this quantum AI race, and is quantum gonna be able to decipher certain things even in Bitcoin and all these things? It just seems to me like it's like the cat's out of the bag, and there's these like whatever situation that could happen, and or that could be like a far thought, is like this, nuclear situation thought, like what could possibly happen. But seriously, I mean, AI can answer so many things, and the people that do quantum are talking about the things that, and how many years away are we from quantum doing certain things, and it's a little scary. Like,
I'll tell you and kind of one of the things that we first broached with my company, but what limited it was you need data. Like I always said, like these analytics engines are like just great white sharks. They eat everything they can, and they just eat data, and it makes the predictions and the valuations richer. And the big problem we had when I was starting my company and moving forward was getting access to enough data. So, once while we try and get 3 to 5 years worth of historical data, we try to get data from multiple systems. But even then, it was still all structured. So you could look at, here's based on the history of what happened a year ago, it's going to happen again. But then you had to bring in things like, okay, well, the economy is not the same as it was a year ago. We didn't have COVID, that blew everything.
right.
So it's like, but now what you're finding is, all of these engines for whatever part of AI are getting the data they need to learn just everything. So the idea is like not only are they going to be doing what we want them to do, when are they going to start gaining their own consciousness and operating, almost independent of us.
Yeah.
It's a scary movie. It's
It's very scary. When I use AI, the one thing I find, it's I ask a question and it's not asking me questions back to understand more about the context, or more about, I think Claude AI is better at it. As of today, September 11, 2025, GPT-5 is just answering and not asking the assumption and not asking more about the context. From that sense, I'm like, it's still far. However, his answers are just, or her, whatever, its answers are becoming just very thorough, complex, and sometimes making assumptions that a human thinking wouldn't, or would ask. A smart human would be like, what is it, A, B, or C, or is it a combination of B and C, or are you thinking about D? Things like that. I think, but if you think about where we were, 2 years ago when these came out
yeah.
to today, it's insane.
I remember my son showing me that, and I was
Yeah.
like, I wrote a book all on my own, but I wonder if I had typed a few words into ChatGPT.
Yeah, you just say, "Hey, talk about, here's the bullet points. These are the things
Here's a
I want
couple
you
of
to
facts.
highlight."
Yeah, go ahead.
Right. I think it could. I mean, unfortunately, unfortunately, I think, because, it's gonna, I don't know if it's gonna kill creativity. I don't know what it's gonna do to all of us, but I was very intrigued to know what a person with such rich background in software as you, and having seen the evolution, would
All I,
think about all that.
all I can say is every time there's been a technology to be feared, it's ended up opening up more than it
Yeah.
closed. Yeah, and that can even go back, like to the
Yeah.
Industrial Revolution,
Yeah.
the going from the information age, the internet and things like that. You think, okay, newspapers,
Right.
stores, everything's going to shut down, but then these other outlets pop up to replace them, Amazon, and all those things like that. So
Yeah.
I can only rely on my faith that
Yeah.
technology always seems to create more than it shuts down.
That is what I hear from, also same, the big tech guys today. I follow and listen quite often, and that seems to be the consensus. And hopefully it is, and hopefully people won't be displaced and actually rearmed with new tools and new skills and all of that, to continue to make humanity one step better than
Yeah.
it was yesterday. As long as we're moving to that direction, I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, but as always, the people who can adapt are the ones who
Yeah.
succeed.
Yeah. Amazing. Tom, I've enjoyed so much talking to you.
Very
I,
much. Glad to know you're a neighbor. You're not too far away.
I
So
know we are probably about 50, no more than 15 minutes from each other. I think you have an amazing background. I've interviewed so many people, but you have that reach, pre entrepreneur history that to me is very unique and inspiring, because it can be so easy. Even as I was sharing, we're doing some shifts in our, even the organizations that we run, and I'm like, go again and reset again and restructure
yeah,
again and remarket and rename and rebrand. But the truth is, it's life is always evolving, and I think you just need to learn. I mean, one thing I'm learning from you is adapt to your time.
Yeah,
Life
the
is
key
not
word seems to be pivot. It's like
pivot. Know when to pivot. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Tom. I have really, really loved talking to you.
same, and look forward to continuing dialogue. Take care.
Absolutely. Thank you.